Hi guys, Matt V's Movies back for another video, and today is a look at my top 5 opening sequences for the James Bond films. I'm going to do this in 2 parts. So this part is looking from GoldenEye through to No Time to Die. And then the second part we'll look at the earlier Bond films starring Sean Connery, Roger Moore, George Lazenby and Timothy Dalton. So Pierce Brosnan took up the role of James Bond, starting with GoldenEye and finishing with Die Another Day. Then Daniel Craig took over, starting with Casino Royale and finishing with No Time to Die. So I'm going to give you my top 5 pre-title sequences from these Bond films. Which ones I really enjoyed, and we'll count down from number 5 to number 1. So what are they? Let's find out today in the video. Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, my name's Matt and this channel is all about movies. We look at James Bond. I've got a James Bond playlist. We look at DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks and sometimes VHS. I do chat videos like this. Lots of playlists on the channel, so scan the QR code or subscribe down below. Come and join the channel, and I hope you enjoy the video. So my top 5 pre-title sequence for the Bond films. So coming in at number 5, and it's the most recent James Bond film that we had, and that is No Time to Die. So this is quite a lengthy sequence, as with a lot of the Daniel Craig opening sequences. As time went on, these sort of got longer and longer, and this one is no exception. So it opens with a property by the lake. It's a frozen lake, and you see this man all dressed in sort of like winter clothes, and he has a sort of doll kind of mask on. This is Safin, who is the main antagonist in the film. So there's a sequence where he breaks into the house, and Madeline, who is Bond's love interest in the film, she's a little girl, she's looking after her mother, and the sequence plays out to kind of set the scene. This is kind of a flashback, because we then move to a scene where she is with Bond in Italy. There's various sequences with them sort of in conversation. There's some nice scenes with the DB5 referencing the music from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So a nice throwback to the George Lazenby film in the late 60s. We then move on with events, and we get a great action scene with Bond. He's on a bridge and he jumps off of the bridge. He's sort of escaping the villains. And then there's a motorbike sequence that's really very cool around the little city that they're in. And then it ends with the DB5 scene with car chase and the sort of cars and people surrounding the DB5, shooting at it. And then we get to see the gun barrels coming out of the front of the headlights. Great scene this. The end part of the sequence, Bond says goodbye to Madeline. He puts her on a train. Then it goes into the title music. Overall, I did enjoy this. I like some throwbacks to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I thought that was really good. For me, there are better opening sequences, and we'll dive into those next. So coming in at number 4, Casino Royale. So this was Daniel Craig's first outing as James Bond, way back in 2006, I think it was. Very stylised opening, this one, and probably the shortest opening sequence of all of these. Shot in black and white, really quite stylised, and you get to see Bond pretty much do his first couple of kills. It's largely about him talking to this guy who knows about his past. You see flashbacks to a bathroom scene where he is having a sort of battle with this guy, and it's quite brutal. Yeah, really sort of showing that this iteration of Bond is quite gritty, very, very different to the sort of quips that we've got from Pierce Brosnan, very much akin to the Roger Moore days, and very much going back to the Sean Connery sort of grittiness. One-liners weren't really hardly at all in this film, but yeah, you pretty much see this guy means business. His first couple of kills, he shows no remorse, and yeah, just needs to get the job done. Now we move on to my number 3 spot, and it's the Daniel Craig film Spectre. So this starts off in Mexico, the Day of the Dead festival, and you see Bond kind of dressed in a skeleton outfit, quite striking. He's with a lady. They go to a room, and you expect kind of typical sort of Bond events to happen, but he quickly takes off the costume and goes outside onto a ledge. Walking across the ledge. Now apparently Daniel Craig had actually injured his leg at this stage and filming this scene, so he was actually doing this scene with a brace on his leg, so it was quite a lot of pain, but you'd never know. So it's pretty clever sort of how they shot it. And he gets to the end of the ledge, and he's kind of sort of spying on this guy that he's after, and he shoots, and then there's kind of like an explosion, and the building kind of falls down onto him. It's quite a fantastic scene with him running away and manages to escape. And then we get to a scene where he's chasing this guy, and they get into a helicopter that's kind of in the centre of the square where all this festival is going. All these people are dressed in costumes, having fun, dancing, processions, all this sort of stuff. But yeah, Bond gets into the helicopter with this guy that he's after, a member of Spectre. It has a fight in the helicopter, pilot takes off, and Bond's able to get this Spectre ring off this guy, have a fight. He goes flying out the window. So then Bond gains control of the helicopter and manages to fly out of the city. So yeah, I really enjoyed this opening scene. I think it's probably one of the better of the Daniel Craig outings. It really sort of puts you right into the action. Fantastic visuals, and yeah, it's a great start to a James Bond film. Okay, my number 2 spot, and I was debating whether to put this at number 2 or number 3. There is a bit towards the end of this scene which is a little bit questionable, but overall it's a great start to a film. And we're talking about GoldenEye. So this was Pierce Brosnan's first outing as James Bond, and I actually quite like this film. I didn't really get on with Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. I felt he was trying to be a combination of Roger Moore and Sean Connery at the same time. His subsequent films I didn't really gel with, didn't think they were that great. Die Another Day for me is probably the worst James Bond film that's ever been made. I don't have it in the collection. I'm not interested in the film at all. But the opening scene to this film is absolutely fantastic. The bungee jump off of the dam is still probably considered one of the best stunts in James Bond history. Really sort of sets the scene for the film. Absolutely fantastic stunt. And we're thrown into seeing Pierce Brosnan for the first time as James Bond. The scene where he meets Sean Bean as 006 and they have the shootout with the Russians, that's a great scene with all the barrels coming over the top. Yeah, it's great to see a bit of camaraderie between the two of them, and really sort of sets the sort of scene for the film. It's action packed, quick, fast paced, and all this sort of thing. We get towards the end of this sequence where this is where it goes a bit daft for me. Pierce Brosnan is chasing after a plane he needs to get to, and he's on a bike, and the bike goes over the top of the cliff, and as the plane is flying down into the valley, Bond is kind of catching up with the plane, and this is where it gets a bit sort of unbelievable, a bit ridiculous. This for me is kind of unfortunately where sort of Pierce Brosnan's films tended to get a bit silly, certainly as we got into the latter part of his tenure. And this is really unbelievable, and it's such a shame because the rest of the sequence is so good. It's such a quality sequence. It's a great start for him as James Bond, and I overall thoroughly enjoy GoldenEye. It's got some great moments in it. I think that bungee jump at the start, because it's such an iconic scene, it deserves the number 2 spot in my top 5. Okay, so for number 1, my top Bond opening for, as I say, the film between GoldenEye and No Time to Die, and we're talking Skyfall. This is a fantastic opening scene. We get to see Bond in Istanbul, and the rooftop chase on the bikes, absolutely fantastic, non-stop action. It then moves on to a train where Bond trying to deflect bullets from a digger which is on the back of this train, and he kind of crushes some Volkswagen Beetles, and there's a great scene where he jumps off of the crane as that part of the train is sort of getting broken up, and he lands into the train where people are sat, and he kind of like straightens himself up. He's got like a wound on his chest, but Bond being Bond, he's always sort of, making sure he looks presentable, and it's just a great little scene where he jumps down into the train. Then there's a fight sequence on top of the train. Bond is fighting this henchman, and they're having to keep ducking to go through tunnels. Moneypenny got a sniper rifle, and she's taking instructions from M on the phone, and she eventually shoots Bond sort of at the end of that sequence. M is saying to her, take the shot, take the bloody shot. She shoots, hits Bond, he goes flying off the edge of the train down into the water, and that's where the title sequence or the music starts. It's an absolutely fantastic scene, action packed, really gets you sort of into the film, and probably why it's one of the most popular Daniel Craig films, apart from Casino Royale. I'd say a lot of people do like this one. It's got a very sad ending to it, but yeah, this opening scene is just full of sort of action set pieces, and it's definitely my number 1 pick, Skyfall. So I hope you've enjoyed that top 5. Like I say, I'll do another one of these where we'll look at the earlier films and my top 5 openings for the films of old. Roger Moore, Sean Connery, Timothy Dalton, George Lazenby. Yeah, we'll do another video. But what I'd be interested to hear are your thoughts down below. What are your top 5 openings to James Bond films? Do you agree with any of these on my list, or would you have other openings on your list? Yeah, stick down in the comments your thoughts, and let's talk about Bond. I'll also leave a playlist here to some other James Bond videos in my James Bond playlist, so please check that out if you love the James Bond films like me, and you've not seen these before. Thanks ever so much for watching the video. Take care. See you next time.